Hey guys, Mustached Chum here to review the movie F+. Now, I have not seen any trailers for this, but I did come across it, so I decided to give it a good old watch. And now I'm here to review it as objectively as possible, because, you see, I always believe that smaller movies like this do deserve their recognition, and I don't know if anyone else will be reviewing this, so might as well be one of the people to do so, right? That's how I feel about smaller movies. So this movie in particular follows, I think it's in middle school, middle school, whatever. We follow a kid named, I want to say it was Ted, but that's making me have Ted's Declassified School Survivor Guide, so I don't think that's his name. I don't know. I think that actually is his name. Same name, mayhaps. Anyway, so the school is introducing a new type of test. This is what they call a SPLAT test, and they have what the acronym, I didn't write it out, I just wrote the acronym out, so I don't know what the acronym stood for. Test. And it's very much akin to the current SAT scores that I do believe are still in the majority of schools. This very conservatively structured thing that I think is a complete waste of time. It only serves to pit school against school, so you're stop focusing about what independent students are focused on. So yeah, like an immediate criticism coming from me, but not about the movie, just how our real life still functions. But hey, at least one high school figured it out how to beat that by saying, you know what, we're not gonna have the SATs. And I can't believe what happened when I went to that high school, and other schools literally barged in and said, we're forcing you to take the SATs or else. They literally threatened us, a radical school, because they were scared of change. How about that for a little history lesson? That's a real life event that happened in my real life. Real story, true story. Anyway, back to the movie. So we follow then Principal Nellie, the guidance counselor Gary, and Terry the guard. Are the three people you see in the poster. The guard there's on the front, the principal, Nellie's on my right, and Gary's on the left of the poster. So anyways, so we see Ted and his friend. I believe his friend was, his nickname later becomes the Hands. I don't recall his actual given name. But his father is played by the WWE superstar Big E, who gets a double cameo appearance here in this instance, and then later on in the film. We then also follow a girl who is related to the principal named Gertz, who's very analytical in the way she speaks. That is her, dare I say it, gender expression, and I don't mean feminine. I'm talking about the nerd archetype, the nerd gender. Yep, I'm using gender in that way, because nobody on either side uses the word gender the way I think I use it. Because I am so tired of the two gender thing that I apply gender to any social group that has social roles applied to them, social perceptions, so that does include masculinity, femininity, and spoiler alert, when it's in between those two, I believe the term for it is Oh god, I had it on the top. I was thinking about this earlier in the week, and I kind of forgot what it was. It's when you can't tell when you're presented what one or the other, so it's in between. The name is escaping me, but those are the genders, you know, some of the genders in relation to sex, and then there's the genders that I talk about, or wish to talk about, that have nothing to do with sex. So like a state-based gender, so like a Texan would be a gender, under my definition, how I use gender. Again, I don't think anyone else uses gender in that sense, because I think everyone on both sides on the political aisle are kind of stupid on the word gender, if I'm being quite frank. Anyway, getting back to the movie. So, we learn through exposition that if their grades, the main character's grades, are kept up, that they will be kept in, despite their mischievous behavior, because the main character and his friend get up to hijinks, but they still test among the highest in the school. The highest, in fact. So that shows favoritism, because schools get funded that way. And I think our school, the high school that I went to, substantially surpasses all that, because it actually legitimately focuses on individual student interest, rather than, you know, sort of flatlining saying that, but kind of not allocating the money to follow through on that a lot of the time. Seems to be fairly consistent in politics. Anyways, so we cut to the test starting, but we then, like, the test starting up, then we cut to it being over, so we don't know what their results were going to be. So the two are kind of walking in, and they talk about this ritual about some famous kid that comes in and, for whatever reason, farts into a tube, which is sealed away. But after that, and then he is moved on back into one of the rooms, and he's we see her earlier in the movie, and she's pretty consistent. I think her name is Penny. She's number 2 in terms of grades in comparison to him. And she's the one who brings up that she and him both got an F+ on their scores, the title of the movie. So, this guides him into his plan, which is to plan a heist, to change all the grades that are Fs. So he begins on narrating the plan, as a typical heist movie does, talking about how they need to access where the grades are kept on this ancient computer, and they begin to look for a crew. They bring in this student who's immersed in magic. They bring in that student from earlier, Gert. Those being their 2 bring-ons, and then including Penny, which now makes it 5 individuals involved in the heist. So the guard starts to spy on them, seeing them, because he's already sussed the main character out from day one, because he's previously pulled pranks and so on and so forth. So he's planning the heist as the same day as this dance, now that the test is over, is going to take place on. But Gertz initially wants out. They manage to convince her to stick with it, though. and go over the deeper phases into more detail. We then cut to Friday, where the plan starts to go into motion. And through every phase, we get these close calls. We get Gertz becomes known as the hacker, so that's what I'll refer to her as. And Hans tries to steal the keys to get access to the room that has the computer in it. Chad, who's the magician, fails to be the distraction momentarily speaking, but the hacker is able to fix that on his behalf, getting the students to be distracted in the dance rather than what they're planning. So the Hans gets his hands on the keys, but the vent that he's inside breaks and begins to fall, so he falls with it. So Chad, the magician, breaks the contact because the teachers begin to investigate and make sure that the Hands can get away. So he's able to get back to his post and release an RC, this remote-controlled car, to get the key from his location to the main character. But a drone that was delivered to the guard begins to give chase. The main kid uses the fire extinguisher to put that out, to power up the drone. So as the principal loses her connection, Gertz is being used as a sacrificial lamb by her own standards, but is doing so within a time frame, while Penny and the main character are in the room trying to change the scores, but he loses access to the mouse and keyboard at some juncture in that phase. The guard has seemingly been distracted by the magic, grabbing a golf cart and dipping out of there with a golf cart. And they sort of do a little bit of a cheat here, where the other students who were we just saw them talking on like the other side of the school, I think it was, and they all teleport on the other side to join in on, just to get our students to the team to reunite. A little bit of a cheat there. I acknowledge it's a bit of a cheat, but hey, you know. At any rate, the principal gets his not principal, the other guy, the one on the left, the one that, God, what was his title again? He was like the I said it earlier and I completely blanked out on the phrase. He's like the guidance counselor equivalent. Right. Anyway, he's planning to be the principal now that things are falling into the wayside of her being out of a job now that the tests have come in. So yes, they learn that the test came out a day prior, or whatever, or were sent out earlier on the same day, so pretty much they were used. And we discover, like, I suppose any good heist movie, or, one of the tropes of a heist movie is a backstabber. That backstabber happens to be in this movie Penny, who planned this plan all along. She was the one, we see this earlier in the movie, so a good callback, is a note being passed to the guard. Then we see it from her perspective of she being the one who passes the note to put him into the no beings of this plan to begin with. As well as being the one to disconnect the mouse and keyboard via removing the USBs respectively. So we see all the things that she's been doing behind the scenes, all to get Gary to be the new principal, because they're in cahoots together, as it would turn out. She had an in, as it were. So she goes on what her motivation was of being jealous of being consistently second place. So she was the one who knew that the only one who could ruin his own plan was himself, to create a new plan to ruin his own plan. Kind of, I know, a little bit over-toppling, but it is what it is. So the son is obviously, the lead is obviously distraught, low point of the movie, but the others come over to give him reassurance and an understanding that what happened. And so, reunited with a new plan, the main character in Squad planned to reveal the real test during the announcements. This goes off with a sacrifice here and there of the main character losing his pants and magically regaining them back, so another one of those later in the movie. But all is to be seen as they do a switcheroo between the magician and the main character, because the main character had gotten caught. And so the main character goes to the hall where the new principal is making his announcements and releases the original test scores that were there. And eventually all comes out into the truth. Thus, while, then that all unfolds and the movie kind of peters out into its end. And that was F+. I would probably give it like a 6 out of 10. Like, the end needed a little bit more cleaning up, obviously, about characters teleporting where they need to be, as well as pants. But on a more serious note, yeah, I think it was a pretty enjoyable movie, all things considered. And if you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description when head you over to my petition about some YouTubers. Second, to my PayPal, you can help support me or channel directly. And third, to my Discord server, join collab, show all that cool stuff for free. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.